Welcome to the Trainmen and Conductor New Hire Training Program. Over the next several weeks, you will learn what it takes to become a railroader at CSX Transportation. Because safety is #1 here at CSXT, your training will focus heavily on safe work practices and operating rules. Your 16-week training session is divided into 5 phases. During Phase 1, you spend time in orientation at one of CSXT's locomotive engineer and conductor training facilities in either Atlanta, Georgia or Cumberland, Maryland. During this orientation, you will be given general information about CSXT, what we require of you as an employee, and what you can expect from us. Once you complete orientation, you will have a general understanding of the railroad lifestyle and CSX transportation. From here, you begin formalized Trainmen classroom training. During this part of your training, you spend 2 weeks learning what a trainman does through instruction in both a classroom environment and at a hands-on training facility nearby. At the car shop classroom, your instructors will orient you on the basics of safety, track components, and standard operating procedures. There, you will also learn how CSXT communicates through hand signals, computer printouts, and radio transmissions. During this phase of training, you also will learn how to perform inspections, how to throw switches, and how to change air hoses. While in Trainmen classroom training, you'll be tested daily so we know which areas you're mastering and where you need further assistance. Each Friday, you'll be given a cumulative exam which covers everything learned to date. On your last day of Trainmen classroom training, you face a final exam. A score of 85% is required to pass this phase of training and graduate to the next phase. Because safety is such a crucial part of your job, you must also pass a 50-question operating rules test with a score of at least 90%. If you are unable to achieve the passing scores established for those exams, but you score at least a 70%, you will be placed on probation and retested. However, if your score is under 70% on these exams, you will fail the training program and your employment with CSXT will terminate at this time. However, we expect all of you to pass the written examinations and move on to the Trainman Apprenticeship. During your Trainman Apprenticeship, your training moves outside the classroom to your home terminal. During the next 4 weeks, you will receive hands-on experience as a trainman as you learn about the physical plant characteristics of your assigned territory. At the conclusion of this 6-week combination of classroom and on-the-job training, you will be qualified as a trainman and ready to begin either conductor or locomotive engineer training. If your path leads to conductor training, you will once again move inside the classroom. During this phase of instruction, you will learn about restricted equipment, proper training building techniques, how to inspect a train, and advanced information about train movement. You'll be tested daily on what you have learned with a comprehensive test each Friday covering all materials presented to date. Scores will be evaluated to identify any trainees requiring assistance. In order to stay in the conductor training program, you must pass your final exam with a score of at least 85%, a 100-question operating rules exam by a score of 90%, and you must attain a perfect score, 100%, on your signals test. Once you pass your final exams inside the classroom, you are ready again for the outdoors. Training moves to your home terminal for the Conductor Apprenticeship. This final phase of training includes approximately 8 weeks of conductor-specific instruction designed to provide you with information about yard and road jobs, through freights, local and road switchers, and hostler positions. Sound complicated? Well, it might right now. But remember, this course was designed for you by experienced conductors who once stood in your shoes. They know the challenges you face in your training and have designed this program for you. Believe us when we say, by the end of this 16-week training, you will sound and act like a true railroader. And you will have people all around you who are there to help. During your conductor apprenticeship, conductor trainers from your home terminal will be there to guide you on the various tasks a conductor must perform. Your training will be divided into 3 steps. First, you spend a day observing your conductor trainer and completing a job profile. A job profile is your own notes about your customers, such as the layout of the track, the direction of switches, and any other pertinent information that will help you serve your customers. After your first day in observation, you spend the next day working the job with the conductor trainer, and then you spend day 3 actually running the job with guidance from your trainer as required. The testing for this phase of training will be based on observations by your local sponsor. Results of this informal testing will go into your training file. Prior to starting work on the railroad, you will be once again tested. There are 3 tests in the Advancement to Conductor exam. You must score at least 85% on a general information test, at least 90% on an operating rules test, and at least 85% on a physical characteristics test of your home territory. This last test will be graded by your field sponsor. If you do not receive passing scores but still score 70% or more, you will be allowed to take the tests again between 10 and 30 days of your original test date. If you fail to make the required scores on the Advancement to Conductor exam after the second testing, your employment with CSXT will end. At some point, you may be selected to take part in locomotive engineer training instead of conductor training. If that occurs, your instruction will vary slightly. After you complete Trainmen classroom training and your on-the-job apprenticeship, you spend 5 weeks inside the classroom in Cumberland, Maryland, learning what a locomotive engineer does. During the first week, you will learn the mechanical components of a locomotive. The second week, you learn how to perform brake tests. Week 3 teaches proper train handling techniques. During week 4, you learn operating rules of the railroad. And in week 5, you face your final exams for your locomotive engineer classroom training. To complete this phase of training, you must pass a signals test by a perfect score of 100%, a mechanical components test by a score of 80%, and an operating rules test by a score of 85%. Once you complete engineer classroom training, you are ready for the outdoors during 21 weeks of locomotive engineer on-the-job training. During this hands-on instruction, you will learn the physical characteristics of your assigned territories, and you will apply your knowledge of signals, train handling techniques, and operating rules to the important job of running a train. At the end of this 5 months of training, you will be tested again so we can learn your knowledge of your future job as a locomotive engineer. You'll be tested again on your operating rules, and this time you must pass the test with a score of 90%. You must also pass a locomotive operations and train handling exam, or LOTH test, by a score of 85%. And you must score an 80% on your qualifying trip with your sponsor, the road foreman of engines in your territory. Once you have passed each of these phases in your track of instruction, you will graduate to either conductor or locomotive engineer, and you'll join the proud CSXT family of railroaders who can say, "We work for the best railroad in North America." As a conductor trainer, you play a key role in ensuring our trainees complete this training program successfully. You are the on-the-job coach who will lead these new railroaders to success, and you've been chosen to take part in this program because of your professionalism, your leadership qualities, and your safe work record. In your role as a conductor trainer, you have several responsibilities. You are in the field with the trainees, so it is your job to ensure trainees perform the required tasks each day that will help them learn the skills and rules needed to work on the railroad. It is also your job to meet with the local sponsor to review the progress of assigned trainees. We want you to keep the lines of communication open just in case any problems develop with a trainee's ability to learn a given task. Also, since you are the person who will see firsthand if a trainee successfully completes a given task, you will be expected to fill out apprentice evaluation forms during both the Trainmen and the Conductor field training segments. At the end of each apprenticeship, you must evaluate your trainee's performance on this form, which will be given to you by the local officer sponsoring your trainee. For each of several tasks, you must decide if the trainee deserves an above average, a satisfactory, or a poor rating. Keep your comments honest, since this is the feedback that will decide if a trainee qualifies to be a conductor. Your frank remarks also will allow us to determine if trainees need to repeat some areas of training before being promoted. Once this form is complete, submit the evaluation to the local field sponsor assigned to the trainee in your location. And speaking of paperwork, you may remember from your day's training on the railroad how challenging it was to fill out paperwork correctly the first time you tried. So make sure you assist trainees when they complete their profile forms for local industries. We have outlined your responsibilities as a conductor trainer, but you may be wondering, how do I know if I'm doing a good job? Well, we've put together some guidelines for you so you can make sure you're the best conductor trainer you can be. One way to be a good conductor trainer is to have an extensive working knowledge of the operating rules that govern the railroad. Trainees will have just been tested on 150 different operating rules when they come to you for guidance in the field. It is your mission to make sure trainees understand how this important information applies to their jobs. Going hand in hand with the operating rules is the kind of example you set in safety. As you know, safety is number one at CSX Transportation. And as a conductor trainer, you have the weighty responsibility of being the first impression the trainees receive in the field. This is no time for shortcuts that will endanger the lives of you or your trainee. Go by the book and be a safety example. There are 3 other characteristics that will make you an effective trainer. Always be a good communicator. Keep in mind the trainee is new to the railroad. Try to explain what you are doing in the most basic of terms, but don't forget to define railroad jargon the conductor trainee will face in doing his or her job. And good communication skills doesn't mean you do all the talking. Give your trainees the opportunity to ask questions and be there to give them constructive feedback when the trainee attempts to perform a task that you have set forth. Finally, and this is very important, maintain the desire necessary to train and help fellow employees. You have been chosen because you set a good example and because it is your nature to do things above and beyond the call of duty. You are a born trainer and you'll do a great job. Good luck in your new role as a conductor trainer. If you are a field officer involved in sponsoring one or more conductor trainees, your job begins by ensuring that all necessary training materials are organized and ready to be used when the on-the-job portion of training starts. If possible, field locations are responsible for providing the following materials to trainees during the apprenticeship segments. Each trainee must be assigned a lantern and any necessary supplies that go with it, a radio and chest pack, an air pressure gauge, and current timetable. All other materials will be provided by the school and include the following: an operating rule book, the Safeway book and calendar, non-prescription safety glasses, a temple stick, a trainee's first pair of work gloves, hearing protection, the emergency response guide, red block materials, payroll code packets, a pencil and legal pad for notes, a switch key, an air hose gasket, and red tags for bad orders or hot boxes. Before the trainees report for field training, it is your responsibility as a field sponsor to carefully select conductor trainers and then educate them in their duties and responsibilities. The people you choose as trainers will have a significant effect on the trainees, and you must ensure that they will be positive role models and teachers. A similar video like the one you're watching now is available for conductor trainers. Watch it with them and make sure you also give them the paperwork they'll need to do their part of the job. You will be notified before the trainees join you for their on-the-job training. At that time, also alert your conductor trainers about the trainees who will be assigned to them. You are also responsible for keeping records of your trainees' progress. During both the Trainmen and the Conductor apprenticeship phases of training, you are required to fill out this weekly apprenticeship assignment form, which outlines job and study assignments for each week during the training periods. Creating a daily study assignment has been shown to help trainees stay focused on safety, operating rules, and other important information during training. This form shows boxes for the day the assignment is to be performed, the job ID, the on-duty point, when trainees should report to their assignment, and the name of the conductor trainer overseeing each assignment. At the bottom of this sheet, you will see a space reserved for your observations and comments, and this information should be completed after each assignment. As a field sponsor, you are responsible for monitoring and evaluating the progress of each trainee assigned to you. At least once a week, you must do a physical spot check of each trainee working in the field. Observe your trainees to make sure they're working safely and give the necessary feedback if they're not. A physical spot check also gives you the opportunity to monitor the conductor trainer. Make sure the trainer allows the trainee to work and learn, instead of instructing the trainee to merely stay at a switch and observe the conductor trainer at work. Once you have observed your trainees in action, record your findings on this biweekly progress report. To properly prepare the trainees' biweekly progress report, you must incorporate data obtained from conductor trainers' evaluation forms, your personal field observations, and biweekly interviews with the trainee and the conductor trainers. When this form is completed, mail it to the Atlanta Training Center for placement in the trainee's file. All evaluation forms can be found in your sponsor guide. However, it will be your responsibility to make the necessary number of copies for your trainees. You should also give the necessary number of copies of the apprenticeship evaluation form to your assigned conductor trainer. When your trainees approach the end of their on-the-job training, you will receive a test packet from the Atlanta Training Center. This packet contains the Advancement to Conductor or ACE exam. It consists of 3 tests, which you must schedule and administer to the trainees. After the trainees complete the general information and operating rules portions of the test, it is your job to fax their answer sheets to the Atlanta Training Center for grading. You will be grading the physical characteristics part of their ACE exam. When you have determined that the trainees have become familiar with the physical characteristics and operational procedures on their territory, you will notify the Atlanta Training Center that the trainee is qualified for promotion to conductor. This is accomplished by faxing the ACE-3 form. Upon receipt of the ACE-3, the Training Center will ensure that the trainee has passed the required testing criteria and that all biweekly reports have been submitted to the Training Center by the field sponsor. The Atlanta Training Center will then issue a promotion letter. Your role as field sponsor is extremely important. Follow these guidelines and you will help our trainees be the best they can be.